Some people don't just experience timeline slips, they live among them, again and again, drifting through versions of their lives they can no longer explain. They're called navigators, individuals who shift realities often and know it, guided by dreams, symbols, and something deeper, a pull they can't name. But what happens when the world you land in feels false, when familiar faces don't recognize you, and the sky hums with the wrong kind of silence? Welcome to Transmutation Vortex. If this hit home, you're not alone. Like and subscribe. Signs you have jumped timelines and alternate realities. Part 3. Navigators, spiritual signals, and false realities. You're not alone. You're just somewhere new. The 7th category. Spiritual and intuitive signs. Beyond physical anomalies and memory conflicts, some people report non-rational, intuitive experiences tied to timeline shifting. These signs aren't about objects or events. They're about inner knowing, a visceral, almost mystical sense that something has changed. The sudden sense of not belonging. You wake up and feel foreign, like a visitor in your own life. Nothing has changed, but everything feels wrong in ways you can't articulate. Your favorite song doesn't stir the same emotions. Your home feels borrowed. Your partner's voice has a strange cadence. Your own name feels like someone else's psychological model. Depersonalization or transient dissociative episodes. Spiritual metaphysical model. Your consciousness has landed in a similar but not identical branch of reality. The soul feels the mismatch first. Some traditions refer to this as a soul-level dissonance, your essence resonating out of sync with the energetic architecture of your surroundings. You hear or feel a click. Multiple experiences have reported, "It felt like the world clicked." They describe a moment of transition, a split-second pop, shift, or drop in sensation, followed by a peculiar stillness. After this moment, small things are different. Variations include a subtle ringing tone or static in one ear, a brief loss of depth perception, a wave of dizziness followed by clarity, a dreamlike shimmer in the air, then normality. Science might interpret these as vestibular disturbances or micro-seizures. But metaphysically, it's said this is the moment of timeline entry, or phase lock, where your conscious field synchronizes to the new local timeline. This moment is often followed by sudden déjà vu, precognition, or subtle life reconfigurations. Sliders, people who shift often. Some individuals claim to be natural timeline shifters, constantly, even involuntarily, slipping between closely adjacent versions of reality. These people are sometimes called sliders, a pop culture term from the 1990s, but adopted in metaphysical circles. Traits of sliders. Electrical interference. They disrupt electronics. Frequent déjà vu. Multiple versions of past events remembered simultaneously. Emotionally intense dreams, or dream bleed through unexplained changes in personal history. Friends forgetting key details about them. Technology acting erratically in their presence. A lifetime of strangeness. Some report they intuitively know when they've shifted timelines. Others don't realize until their lives subtly fail to line up. Job records missing, friends remembering different details, family dynamics that seem reversed. Sliders often suffer from existential confusion, memory, instability, the inability to emotionally settle into reality, extreme longing for a world that feels out of reach. Are these psychological coping mechanisms for trauma, or evidence of a consciousness that never locks into one stable reality stream? Timeline navigation, intention, emotion, and quantum agency. Metaphysical traditions often claim you can choose your timeline, consciously or unconsciously, by adjusting your internal frequency. This implies that timeline jumping is not a random glitch, but a skill, a technology of consciousness. Emotional resonance as navigational tool. High-intensity emotions, grief, ecstasy, trauma, awe, are said to act as anchors or launch pads. They shift your vibrational state and pull you into timelines matching your internal emotional signature. If you shift into a high joy state, you enter a world aligned with joy. If you spiral into despair, you tune to timelines saturated with chaos, entropy, or loss. The key, then, is awareness, to consciously notice what emotion is fueling your direction. This aligns with psychological models of cognitive filtering. Your mindset shapes what you perceive, reinforcing your emotional state. But metaphysics stretches this further. Your emotional state doesn't just change what you see, it changes what exists. Belief and imagination. Some quantum consciousness models suggest belief is the mechanism by which timelines are selected, not positive thinking in a superficial sense, but deep-rooted expectation, acceptance, and identity. If you identify as someone who's wealthy, safe, and free, you are drawn toward versions of reality where that identity is fulfilled. If you identify as broken or unloved, you move toward the timelines that confirm it. This echoes quantum observer theory. That which is observed collapses into reality, so the self you believe in, the future you expect, the patterns you emotionally rehearse, all act as timeline attractors. False realities and simulated timelines. Sometimes the issue isn't that you've jumped timelines, it's that you've landed in one that feels constructed, even artificial. Experiencers speak of waking up one day and realizing, this world doesn't feel real, it feels programmed. They cite repetition in interactions, lack of emotional depth in people recycled experiences, NPC behavior in strangers, a sense of narrative, deadness, simulation, hypothesis, meets timeline theory. The simulation theory, popularized by thinkers like Nick Bostrom, suggests our universe may be a digital or computational construct. If so, then timelines are saved states or parallel simulations running concurrently. And if consciousness is an external player, outside the simulation, then shifting timelines may be as simple as loading a different instance. Some speculate that glitches are errors in the simulation code, Mandela effects are version mismatches after updates, dream shifts are patch synchronizations, timeline jumps are the result of you exiting one instance and being loaded into another. There is no hard evidence, but the subjective feeling is widely reported and intensely specific. Is there a way to return to your original timeline? One of the most commonly asked questions among timeline jumpers is this: if I'm not in the timeline I started in, can I get back? It's not always clear how they know they've shifted, but the feeling is potent, a sense of home being lost, familiarity displaced, a version of life that felt more real. Here are a few schools of thought on return. The frequency return model. This approach holds that each timeline is encoded with a frequency, a unique energetic signature. To return, you must align emotionally, mentally, and spiritually with that frequency again. This may involve remembering key emotional states, recreating routines or locations, reliving peak moments, reclaiming belief structures you've since discarded. The theory claims that the more you remember and embody the you from the original timeline, the more you tune to that reality's coordinates. The acceptance model. This one says, there is no going back, only going deeper into integration. You didn't leave your timeline. You shifted versions of you. To return means to merge with all the versions, to accept the multiplicity and synthesize it. You bring all timelines into one unified self. You don't travel, you become. The conscious navigation model. If timelines are always branching, then the original timeline may not even exist in the same form anymore. The self that lived it may be a myth. This school teaches forward navigation only, but with precision. Through intention, emotional mastery, and belief calibration, you can choose your next branch. You don't escape your current version, you outgrow it. This overlaps with teachings in Neville Goddard's manifestation techniques, transurfing, Vadim Zeland, certain interpretations of the law of assumption and law of attraction. Tuning into timeline signals. What to watch for. If you want to consciously recognize a timeline shift, here are advanced level signs to monitor. Continuity anomalies. A wound appears or disappears overnight. An old injury behaves differently. A scar is gone or moved. You remember injuring yourself but have no mark, or vice versa. Sensory echoes. You hear a song that doesn't exist. You taste something that triggers a memory you don't recognize. You smell a fragrance that evokes a place you've never been. Visual artifacts appear. Glitches, flickers, shadow figures that vanish. Emotional lag. You enter a place and are suddenly flooded with sadness or joy. You feel nostalgia for something that hasn't happened. A place feels intimately familiar without known cause. Asynchronous events. You hear someone say something, then a moment later they say it again. You see someone walk past, twice in exact rhythm a moment repeats with eerie similarity. Words on screens change before your eyes. End of part 3. Stay tuned for part 4, coming soon.